I have walked into rooms in my life, not to say I'm some conspiracy theorist about ghosts, but I walked into houses in my life and my hair stood up on the back of my neck.
I'm excited today to be chatting with Jeff Celentano, the director of Blackwater Lane. Jeff, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it. The film is so much fun.
I'm glad you liked it.
It really is. It's got those twists that draw you in and in that vibe, that spooky vibe, which I love. What attracted you to the script?
What attracted me was that it had that old, like, classic movie feel.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen that in a long time, and I wanted to scare people, but also keep it really real. Like people were actually going through this experience. And I felt that we didn't need all these huge digital effects and everything. We could rely on the mind and tricking people into making them think that they're going insane as an audience, trying to figure it out. And that was what attracted me.
And even up to the final scene, without giving anything away, it still has that aspect to it where there's these conflicting stories and trying to piece it all together. It draws you right in. I love that aspect to it.
Yeah, and it had a lot of different characters that we wanted everybody to be a suspect,
Yeah.
even down to the flower girl. There isn't a flower girl, but if there was, she'd be a suspect.
Uh, but you're right. There's this old school vibe. The terror really is in the mind. A creak of a floor can do incredible things to somebody when they're alone. I was wondering, in your mind, what ghosts or aspects of ghosts do you think are the most terrifying?
I think the ones you can't see that you hear and feel. I have walked into rooms in my life, not to say I'm some conspiracy theorist about ghosts, but I walked into houses in my life and my hair stood up on the back of my neck. And I've come to find out that I wasn't wrong. That room has had situations go on
Mm.
that were ghostly. Um, that scares me. Stuff you can't see and you can't put your finger on what it is. What am I seeing? I'm looking at something. What you may think is something somebody else looks at and thinks it's something totally different. And that was kind of my goal. Like people that have seen the film will look at some of the scary scenes and go, "What am I looking at?" And then all of a sudden they see it and they jump back, or scream. I had a woman the other day. I haven't told anybody this, but she was watching the film at my house and she was or just watching the trailer. Yeah, she was watching the trailer and she was sitting there totally stoic, not moving, like a statue. And suddenly, at the very end, when it was all over, and it wasn't even a jump scare. She literally sitting there and I looked at her and I said, "What'd you think?" So now I said, "What?" She jumped, ah! And she screamed really loud. And I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "I was literally like frozen the whole time. And then when you asked me a question, it took me out of it and you scared the heck out of me." So, it's working, I think.
Absolutely, and that's why I say I love the film because the way you describe it is that you never really know what's going on. You don't, and these characters, it's predicting the ending is not an easy task by any stretch because there's constantly pieces constantly shifting around the board. And it's interesting because when you're talking there, I started thinking about the stories we tell ourselves, or the stories we are told, is these are very much a part of this film. And yet the way we understand the world feels so fragile at the same time, and certainly is in for Cass in this film. What is it about the stories we tell ourselves that makes them so fragile in your mind?
Um, I think it's just like what you're made of,
Mm.
how you were raised, things in your life that affected you. They affect everybody differently. Everybody has a different reaction to something else. I wanted to play on that in a universal way. what I love about this movie is at the very end, when you're trying to figure it out, everybody I've seen it with have said, "Oh, I figured it out and I was right." And then I go like this,
Yeah.
and you didn't figure it out, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
like you think you figured out like who's doing what, and you do figure it out, but then I just do a full 180, and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't figure it out. I mean, part of it is true. Yes, you figured that part out, but this you weren't ready for. I love movies like that. Look, there's a movie called La Femme Nikita, a very old French film, the French one,
Yes.
not the American
Classic.
one, the French one. And there's a great scene that I live by in horror movies or thrillers. 2 seconds, I'll tell you the story. The scene is this very bad girl gets recruited to be a hit woman. She gets taken on a date after she's been trained for 5 years and never let out of this facility by her trainer. She's in love with her trainer because he's been so close to her and getting her confidence that she just typically falls in love with him. And they go to dinner and he's smiling in a beautiful suit. And he looks handsome and she's beautiful. And he hands her a box all wrapped up. And he said, "Here's a gift for you." And she almost cries. She unwraps the box and she opens it and it's a big silver gun. And he looks her in the eye and he goes, "Kill the man behind you. You have 5 minutes. I'll be outside in the alley. Good luck." And he gets up. The audience was not ready for that.
Yeah.
They lead you into this whole path of this is happening. Oh my God, this poor girl who's been beat up her whole life finally found love. Somebody cares about her. And then right at that moment, they do a hard left turn and you are not expecting the outcome. Even all the way into the kitchen where she runs and opens the window to get into his car, there's a brick wall. I mean, I live by that method of filmmaking, and I tried to do that in this film at the end. It wasn't on the level of La Femme Nikita. Trust me, that's a whole different movie. But to me, that's one of the greatest movies ever made. But I tried to live up to that a little bit in some of the scenes, you know.
Well, yeah, and with that in mind, it's how do you create such a how do you create a great thriller? Because La Femme Nikita is an incredible example of this, of one that knows manages to play with expectations. And certainly that's what's happening in this film. So what in your mind is the most essential part of constructing this sort of world?
I think it's believability.
Mm,
I think if I believe it when I'm watching it as a filmmaker and a storyteller, the audience is going to believe it. And do we get it right every time? No. Are we perfect? No. We're just storytellers and we have a set of tools someone hands us. We have a set of money someone hands us. And we have to take that money and that time span and make a movie that is as believable as possible. I'm such a stickler about would this really happen? You know, and sometimes you have to just kind of go for the ride and go, this might not really happen the way this happened, but does it work? Is it exciting? Is it entertaining? Yes. Then embrace that. You know, and I think Spielberg does that a lot in his work. You know, some of the stuff you see in Spielberg movies, you go, why does Tom Hanks have two red stripes down his helmet in Saving Private Ryan? No captain would ever have that. He'd get shot the first 5 minutes of the movie. But Spielberg took a license to go because there's 8 guys and I can't tell them apart.
yeah.
You know, I might get people get mad at me for it, but I'm gonna go that way. You know, and I did that same thing. There were scenes where I was so like into making it believable, and there's other scenes where I had to stretch the truth a little bit to make it more exciting, you know, without going over the line. You have to know the line. If you step over the line with an audience and you lose them, you're done. I gotta say, most of my movies, 50% of the audience loves them, 50% of the audience hates them. Other times it's 70% of the audience loves them, 30% hates them. I think if you get into that range, you're making something controversial
Mm.
that people can talk about, and you never can make a movie for everybody. No way. It's not possible. Like I like reggae music. This guy may like classical, you know. Do you like my reggae music? Please turn that off. You know what I mean? But I'm really glad that you like the film and enjoy it because that's my audience, you know, the people that like these kind of films and like to be scared. You know, a really cool thing about the movie is a lot of my friends say, "Oh, I don't want to see that movie. It's scary. I don't want to see a scary movie." I go, "You can watch this movie and you will be able you won't vomit. There's no gore, but it's terrifying in the sense that you may not want to sleep with the light off."
That that's what exactly I was going to say. You may not be horrified by the gore, but you may not want to be alone in your house afterward.
Yeah, that's right.
Honestly, it's so much fun. I know we have to wrap up here, Jeff, but as we go, what do you hope people take away from Blackwater Lane?
I just hope they have a great experience and whatever movies they like, this is their kind of movie. And I feel, I hope they walk away and say that guy achieved that. In the movies that entertained me, he did a great job with that. That's all I care about.
I appreciate that, and this certainly is a lot of fun. So thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it, and I wish you the best.
Thank you, Steve. Really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too.